Hello, beautiful Arbonne women. Welcome to week 4. Oh, I have some Google effects going live on my face. That's adorable. This week we're going to be looking at fears. So we're building on the work we did last week around your belief systems. Now, I've had a couple of people comment that fears is a big issue for them in their business. So I am expecting a fair bit of contribution throughout this session so that we can work on your fears and I can give you real life examples on how you can actually address those fears and start building your business, not in the absence of fear, but in the enjoyment of fear. Does that make sense and sound exciting? I hope so. So just like always, your Q&A button is up here somewhere, hopefully on your screen. So pop any questions or comments that you have throughout the session in there so I can address them and hopefully give you even more benefit than you're currently getting. As always, the Facebook group is open for you to comment in and let me help you work through anything that you're coming up against in your business. So without further ado, let's get started on the slides. Feel free to comment as we go along and I'll be popping back into the screen to check the questions as we go. Every week I like to remind you that you are more incredible than you could possibly imagine. You're going on a huge journey over the last 4 weeks and to come, and I'm sure that I'm shaking the ground a little bit on some of the things I'm telling you. But stick with whatever your journey is. You're more than capable of doing it. You're incredible in so many different ways, and if you just let yourself shine, I'm sure you'll be very surprised and impressed with what you can achieve. So with that framing, let's get started. So today we're going to look at what fear is, what it actually is, and why we have it. I'm going to talk about a concept called herd shifting, and then I want to explore a couple of strategies which you can implement into your life immediately, which will help you deal with your fear and actually work within that boundary and start to enjoy your fear, which sounds like a strange concept. But once you harness the power of fear and the physical response that it gives you, it's actually a really powerful tool. So first, the Oxford Dictionary says that fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Seems reasonable. Fear of heights, fear of people, fear of failure, fear of everything is a threat that you perceive against who you are or what you're trying to achieve. What I like to think of fear as an acrostic poem of false evidence appearing real. So when you think about your fears, how much of it is actually based on 100% fact? I'd hazard to guess very little. I've got an example I like to use of spiders. The majority of people are afraid of spiders. Now, there are some breeds of spiders which are very dangerous. However, daddy longlegs and huntsmans and those ones that are common in Australia are not dangerous at all. They barely give you a nip, if that. We are bred to be terrified of them. It's false evidence. We see it. We make it evidence to us and we create that as a reality in our lives. So can you see how you and your own perception creates a reality? The same goes in business. The fear of failure, the fear of success, you find evidence around you which then appears real. Remember how we were talking about the reticular activating system and its ability to scan the environment around it to find evidence which supports your belief system? Well, this is also true for fear. So if you have a fear, let's say, of failure or of success, even worse, or being found to be a fraud, which is an exceedingly common one, especially in women, you find evidence all around you to make that fear a reality. Now, this is all based on something we call the ego. And the ego is the need to look good and be right. So if you have a belief or a fear instilled in your mind, you're going to want to find information to support that. So you're right. Heaven forbid you might actually be wrong about something. And I know I giggle a little bit at that, but it's such a common thing in our lives. And once you get to understand your ego and what it's trying to make you do, you can start to control it. So I bring you to the introduction to the ego and actually why we have fear. So if you look at the history of how we developed, we're a pack animal. We're basically a mammal. And fear keeps us safe. If we stray from the herd, we're likely to be eaten, essentially, or beaten, or made to feel lonely or uncomfortable. If we stay in the normal bounds, hanging out with the normal people, we're unlikely to be cut down or pushed aside. So we have fear or an ego to keep us safe. If you look at your friends and your family, they reckon that you are the 5 people you hang around with most divided by 5. So if you look at the health, the wealth, the happiness of your 5 closest friends or family, they're probably going to be pretty much on par with what you earn happiness and health-wise. Because we're mammals and we stick to a pack, it would seem unfair, unreasonable, and almost unreal that you would extend yourself past your herd. So that's what we call it, herd shifting, past the group you currently stand in, which is basically the fear of success. Now, fear of success and fear of failure is essentially the same thing. It's a fear of change. Because if you're successful, you're going to have to hang out with different people. You won't be able to complain about the same things. You will think on a different plane and you just don't have the same conversations you used to. Because you're a mammal and you're a pack animal, you don't want to run away from your herd. It's a scary thing, and what if you're not accepted by the next one? You'll be out all alone for a little while at least, and that's a terrifying experience. And that is why we have fear, to keep us, in inverted commas, safe. Now, our ego is exactly the same thing. Our ego wants us to feel right and look good. Write that down. My ego wants me to feel right and look good. So in order to feel right and look good, it's scanning information to support our beliefs and our fears. If we keep finding information that doesn't align with our fears, then we are wrong. And being wrong is something our ego does not want to do. So our ego will find this information, and our brain is a miser. It only translates like 2,000 messages when it has the ability to receive 400,000 messages a minute. So if you are only looking for information that proves to you that you're right and you look good, of course you're going to find that false evidence that appears real. And last of all, we have fear because we've witnessed things around us. So some people say, oh, relationships never work. My parents divorced, my auntie divorced, etc., etc., etc. So I fear relationships. All people who are in a relationship turn into a scumbag, blah, 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 blah. Because your ego wants to find evidence that your belief that all people in relationships turn into scumbags, it will only find weddings and marriages that fail. I'm sure if you look around you a bit further, you'll also find a lot of marriages that are extremely successful. But because we've witnessed things that have failed, we tend to hang on to that information. Also, society and culturally, we are bred to believe and feel and fear things. So the tall poppy syndrome creates a fear of success because you don't want to be cut down, you don't want to be considered to be a wanker. You're a nice person and you should be a nice person, so why would you want to be filthy rich? You know, we have witnessed that if you're healthy and happy, people will call you skinny bitch or all these awful words because of what they have been bred to believe and witnessed and subsequently parrot. Now that parroting and that witnessing all comes back to the herd. If we are shown to be supportive of people who are successful, supportive to be people who are healthy, what does that say about us? We're different from our herd. So if you see that we're all mammals, we all have an ego that wants to make us look good and feel right, and we've witnessed in our society and our upbringing certain beliefs and fears that it just is ingrained in us, a lot of the things we don't even realize we're afraid of. And it's not until we go to step outside of our comfort zone and really push our envelope that these things come up. And I know a lot of you are pushing your envelope at the moment, and I'd like you to just consider the strategies we're going to look at in a minute as something that you can really bring into your life today to understand what's stopping you and why are you stalling when you know exactly what you should be doing. You probably know exactly how to do it, and yet you end up doing 57 loads of washing and not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know, crazy behavior. We're all guilty of it. My hand's right up in the air. So the first thing I want you to consider is upgrading your herd. Now, this is the 5 people that you hang around with most, or your workplace, or in some cases even your family. So your herd is designed to keep you safe. So this is really apparent when someone starts to become successful and all their friends and family go, why would you want to do that? Don't pursue that. No, just stay in your safe job. You were really good at that job. You had it dialed. I don't understand why you wouldn't just stay there. Why are you stuck? Is this sounding familiar? It's because you're breaking their mold. You're breaking what they're comfortable with, and they're doing it out of love for you most of the time because they don't want to see you do something silly. But that's their version of silly, all right? It's not a fact. It's false evidence appearing real. They will pull you down to keep you in check, to make sure that you abide by their rules. Now, is that really what you want to do for the rest of your life? Do you want to fight to do what you want to do, or do you want to find people who push you and encourage you? I know there's maybe Kelly won't be that impressed, but she's joined one of our programs to really lift her herd and have people support her in that. And she's popping her goals in, and everyone's getting behind her and supporting her and helping her make sales and helping her make those connections because they care about her progress. Now, wouldn't that be nice to have people in your herd that care about your progress and push you to do better? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but in a horse herd, there is always a dominant male horse. And if one of the younger horses starts to step out of line, it will actually nip that horse on the butt to make sure that it realizes what it's doing wrong and pulls it back in line into accurate behavior. Now, this is what a positive herd would do to you. If you start becoming slack, if you start putting yourself down, if you start to behave in a way that is not for your own benefit, a good herd will pull you up because you don't want to be languishing behind. A lion's going to eat you. You have to come back up to the group and perform at that top level. And I cannot stress enough the importance of finding yourself a herd that's going to lift you up. Your success is determined by your mindset. Your mindset is a combination of your beliefs, your values, your identity, and your fears is such a huge part of that. So when you fear something, you will stall. Having the right herd to kickstart you when you're feeling sluggish can be the difference between no sales and $500,000 worth of sales. It is absolutely critical. So I want you to sit and think about which herd you would prefer to be part of. And it seems like a simple question. They were like, of course I want to be in the good herd. But do you? Sometimes it takes saying no to your family. Now, I'm not saying never hang out with them again. Please don't do that. But I am saying you might need to give their opinion less credit, which often doesn't go down well. It might be cutting off that friend you've had for X number of years that supported you through some really tough times, and you've done that to them too. and realize that they no longer serve purpose in your life. This is a mildly selfish behavior, and I know I'm asking you to probably do something that's not that comfortable, but you're doing it to serve you and your purpose in the long term, and you're also serving the person that you let go, because you don't want to be part of their herd. You know, you don't want to hold them back from whatever they want. And if what they want is to whinge and bitch for the next 30 years, then they should go and do that, and you shouldn't stop them from that. So really consider the power of your herd and who you're going to ask to be part of that. The second strategy I want to look at today is the ask and sit. Very, very fancy name. Whew! Technical on that one. But it's legitimately the act of consciousness around fear. So consciousness is the ability to witness and feel what's going on inside yourself without judgment. So you sit there and you go, okay, so I've procrastinated for the last 3 hours on this. I know it's important to me. Why have I not done it? And it's not a judgment. You're not angry at yourself. It's just an exploration. Because I'm scared of looking stupid, because I'm scared of annoying someone, because I have a fear of being considered to be a fraud. I don't want to recruit people into my business because I'm not making a lot of money, so why should they want to join? You know, all these things that are popping up in your head, and then go, okay, so what's the real fear there? You know, inadequacy, failure, success. Yeah. What is it? And then once you've identified what that fear is, you break it down through this pattern. Okay, so I have a fear of failure. What's the worst that could happen? If I make this phone call, they could say no. Okay, so what's the likelihood that this could happen? 50%. All right, would it be really that bad? Probably not. What could you do to mitigate this from happening? Maybe do a bit more research. Is there anything else? Maybe make a bit of small talk so it's fun. Is there anything else? I could just get over it. Excellent. Go do that then. Or a bigger fear. I have a fear of failure for the whole business. And I'm going to look like an idiot because I've put my whole business or my whole life or my whole career or whatever it is on the line to do this Arbonne. And everyone in my family thinks I'm completely nuts anyway, so I have to legitimize what I'm doing. Okay, what's the worst that could happen if you lose all your money and business doesn't take off? Well, I lose all my money and I look like an idiot. Okay, what's the likelihood that this could happen? Well, it's up to me whether it happens or not, but it's reasonably likely, I suppose, if I don't know what I'm doing in my business. So what could you do to mitigate that from happening? Maybe I could learn more, or I could hire a mentor, or I could get a really good strategy and a time management system and understand my beliefs and understand my fears and start kicking massive goals. Getting what I'm saying here, ladies? Anything else? I could take 10% more action a day. Okay, anything else? I could paint my car in Arbonne colours. Anything else? You know, and you go through this and then all of a sudden the fear becomes trivial. It won't define your actions anymore because it's not that big a deal. The worst that could happen is you look like a bit of a silly willy. Well, we've all done that, so you're going to get over it, you know. If you can break down your fears in this way, you take the sting out of it. It stops becoming this massive storm cloud and instead is a tiny little puddle. Once that occurs, you can start taking action that you need to get the results, which then creates amazing, amazing momentum. So the big question I get all the time is, how do I get rid of fear? And I say, be courageous. That was not predictable at all, I'm sure. But seriously, every time you feel fear and take action, not in the absence of fear, but in spite of the fear, you build your resilience and your ability to move through fear muscle. It's like any other muscle in the body, it needs to be worked out. Now, what I always recommend is you celebrate every time you do something in spite of fear. If you make a phone call, you're dreading. If you make an appointment, you're dreading. If you have a conversation, you're dreading. Not just in business, in life. Celebrate that hard. So what we do at Moxxi is we success dance. And we do 1 minute of ridiculous dancing, craziest dance moves ever, to a terrible, terrible song, to get your endorphins and dopamine flowing to celebrate whatever successes come through. Now, we do this for a lot of reasons. A, it's fun to dance. B, you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. And C, you're connecting a positive outcome to doing something unpleasant. Once you can connect mentally and physically a fabulous feeling to doing something uncomfortable, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to want to do it more. Because we do things for two reasons, to move away from pain, which is the avoidance, or to move towards pleasure, which is what we do when we celebrate. So I want you to really think about it over the next few days and implement those 3 strategies we've talked about. Upgrade your herd. Talk to people who get you, encourage you, and want you to succeed. Dissect your fear. Understand why it's really making you scared, and realize that once you dissect it enough, it's pretty trivial, and you are very, very, very fantastic, and you can definitely do what you want to. And then notice that fear once you've dissected it, and do it anyway. Do whatever you're scared of anyway, and then celebrate that like a boss. Celebrating will get you the positive endorphins and dopamine kick that's going to get you to want to do it again. This is a daily practice. This is not something you do once. Everything I'm teaching you through this 6-week program is actually for you to implement for the rest of your life. Making sense? I would like to leave you with a quote before you come back for questions. And go, how badly do you want it? This is the question I ask you every single week. Thinking will not overcome fear, but action will. Action's hard. You know, I'm not painting rainbows and pixie dust here. This is hard work. But once you do it consistently, it becomes a fabulous and easy habit. It's breaking that procrastination, breaking that fear, breaking what's holding you down, and getting used to operating at a higher frequency. Now, find people who are going to support you, whether that's through Moxxi, whether that's through Arbonne, whether that's through a different network altogether. Understand that it's up to you to design your herd. If you feel like no one gets you, you're in the wrong herd. If you feel alone and unsupported, you are in the wrong herd. Stop whinging about it and go find yourself some wildebeest that you like. Dissect your fear, understand what's holding you back, and then go do it anyway. I believe in your ability, and I know you can do it. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. So let's see if we have any questions coming through. I'm just opening this amazing Q&A box. Now, I know, especially starting a business for me was a very challenging thing, and I had a lot of fears, and I've invested a lot of money and a lot of time and my entire reputation on a business that is fairly new in Australia. Coaching and mindset mastery is not a big thing. The US, definitely, but there was a huge amount of fears that I had to work through. So there are no questions. Come on, guys, surely you have a question. I know some of you on this call, fear is a huge part of the things that are holding you back. So I wanted to talk quickly. If there are no questions, please feel free to put them on the Facebook page so we can help you work through them. All fears. So the biggest fear in women is the fear of being found to be a fraud. And this comes back to confidence. Men are seemingly built better to be confident, and I believe this is due to the amount of testosterone versus estrogen in the body. But it's up to us to build our resilience and our ability to be courageous and take the next step and build our confidence to back ourselves in our ability. Every single one of you knows more than you did yesterday. And a lot of people have come to me and said, Lauren, I don't really feel like I'm good enough to recruit people. I don't understand the business well enough. I don't understand the products. I have to do more training. Training's great, and I'm never going to tell you not to train, but I am going to ask you to please back yourself. Realize that people aren't in this for you to give them the best product knowledge ever. They're in this for you to support them. They're in this to upgrade their herd and understand what drives them and gives them the passion that they want out of life. So instead of always thinking that you need to know more or do more or live more, just be exactly who you are and offer them that and see what they come back with. I'm sure they'll love it. So that's today's fear-busting hangout. If you have any questions, pop them in the Facebook group. I hope you've had a fabulous evening. I wish you very, very lovely sleeps tonight. And whatever you do tonight, tomorrow, the rest of the week, until I see you next, be courageous.